Well, hello there. The purpose of this video is to compile some of my thoughts regarding a fairly typical, and you might say average, NNN BC boot. And to be clear, my goal is not to review the boot, but to treat it as the prototype of an average NNN BC boot.
Great snow.
What I really wanted to know was, what can you expect out of an average NNN BC boot, performance-wise? Specifically, I'm approaching this from a cross-country downhill context, where I want to know how wide and how long and how heavy your ski can be and still be handled by an average NNN BC boot. I also had a couple issues I wanted to try to troubleshoot.
So the last time I wore these boots, I went 12 miles and it was actually my first time wearing these boots. They're used, but they're new to me. And I ended up with some terrible blisters. I had a little bit of heel slip going on. And even though the boots fit me all right lengthwise, I had a hard time kind of filling the volume of the boot. I guess I probably have a low volume foot. Makes sense, I'm kind of a low volume person. But I'm giving the boots another try today, and I want to see if changing my sock game is going to take up the volume of the boot better, prevent heel slip, and also give me extra padding to protect my heels.
Here's a little more backstory. I picked up these super average NNN BC boots as kind of a throw-in package deal when I bought some really burly NNN BC boots this winter. I thought, okay, well that's nice, I could probably use them because the burly ones, even though they're good for downhill, probably wouldn't be good for mileage. The problem is, like probably a lot of cross-country downhill skiers, I want all of my boots to have decent downhill performance. Well, if my foot wasn't taking up the volume inside of the boot very well, then I wouldn't have good downhill performance. And also, if I was having heel slip, then I wouldn't be able to use these to cover a lot of miles either, and these boots would be pretty useless to me. So here's my solution. I wore a thin sock on the inside and then a muckluck on the outside. This has some added benefits like keeping my feet warm and also being great at McDonald's play places. So overall, I'd have to say that with the mucklucks, I was able to successfully troubleshoot the issues I was having. I felt like I had okay control with these average NNN BC boots on the S-bound 98s, and now I wanted to see if I could push them further. In this case, that meant trying them out on my mod shoes Anims. The ones I have are about 15 centimeters longer than these S-bound 98s, and also about 10 millimeters wider. Also a fair amount heavier. I originally had my Anims mounted with 3-pin hardwire bindings because they were my best downhill skis for deep snow. But since I got other skis for that purpose, I decided to try out NNN BC bindings on my Anims. My reasoning was that it'd be great if I could still have all the flotation I get with the Anims and adequate downhill control, but paired with much better touring that I get with NNN BC versus hard plastic 3-pin boots. So let's check in real quick and see how that decision is working out.
Right off the bat, I can tell you these 195 centimeter Anims feel heavier. They pull down on the toe a little bit more when I lift them compared to my 179 centimeter S-bound 98 skis. But what will really be telling is what kind of control I have on the downhill. Both of these skis, I'd say, are similarly turny. So anyways, we'll really test it out on these gentle downhills. See if the float is better. See if the turning and control is just fine with NNN BC.
I know my downhill runs didn't look spectacular with the S-bound 98s, but compare that to what you're seeing right here. I felt pretty awful with these average NNN BC boots and the mod shoes Anims.
Well, that was a little sketchy. That time it did feel like maybe too much ski for these boots and NNN BC. I'll give it another go with less of a head start.
Well, this run's lousy too, and I have to say I was really surprised. I've felt boots be insufficient before on firm snow, but this is the first time I've ever had the feeling of the ski being pushed around in soft, easy to ski snow on low angles like this. So I'd definitely say the boots were outmatched.
Well, these runs have been pretty eye-opening to me. It's not what I was expecting. I thought that in this soft snow, I would be able to handle the Anims with the NNN BC boots, but maybe those high plastic ones would have been doing better. But with these average NNN BC boots, NNN BC feels like not enough boot and binding to control these skis. Even on a gentle run, I could really feel the skis pushing the boot around rather than the other way. In all likelihood, I'm going to swap back to the 3-pin binding on this, maybe a 3-pin with a cable spring for the heel.
So my mind about the Anims and these average NNN BC boots was sufficiently made up that I did go ahead and change over to 3 pins as you see in this picture. I also decided as a control, I wanted to try out some even longer skis with these average NNN BC boots. And what I was really testing out to satisfy my own curiosity was if maybe there was just too much ski with the full-length Anims in front of the fulcrum created by the binding. And so these skis right here, these 215 centimeter E99s, are about 20 centimeters longer than those Anims I was trying. And this, of course, was on a different day with somewhat different snow conditions, somewhat different terrain, but I also just had no trouble controlling these long, straight skis with my average NNN BC boots.
You know, it looked dreadfully slow on camera, and I certainly wasn't going fast, but I'm pretty pleased with how round those turns look for these skis. There's some curvature in there.
I know there are plenty of people who ski Mod Shoes Anims or Panorama 78s with NNN BC bindings. I assume they must do it well. But in my case, I would either need to have a more rigid boot, a shorter ski than the one I have, or scoot the binding forward on the ski. My other takeaways from these experiments are that mucklucks are a pretty good hack if you want to take up extra space in your boot to maybe increase comfort or eliminate rubbing or increase control. However, they do make your foot feel a little more cramped. And I really like the feel of at least an average or better NNN BC boot with the Fisher S-Bound 98 skis.